Hello, YouTube. So this is going to be my session recap for session 2 of the Mutant Epoch Favored Remnant campaign. And just as a little recap of what happened last session, this campaign takes place in the 24th century, hundreds of years after the advanced society of the pure strain humans was brought low by nuclear war, slave rebellion, various other different factors, ecological disaster. So yeah. And now the world is a much darker place than it used to be. Lots of different races running around, causing trouble. Mutants, of course, who were previously genetically modified, basically, to benefit their human pure strain masters. We have the cyborgs, who also would either be modified humans who were disabled, or they would be another brainwashed slave race to the pure strains. We have, of course, the pure strains. We also have the bestial humans, which was the result of humans tampering with the genetic codes of different animals and creating hybrid, half-human, half-animal freaks of nature to serve them. And so now, the last time we left our parties, our first group, which consisted of Edward, the typical mutant, also known as Four Eyes for his four-stalked eyes that come out of his head, Peabody, the cyborg, and Reginald, the soft-spoken, freakish horror mutant, who has many, many horrific mutations covering his body. So this group, they were on a mission to find water for the farming community that lives below the great city, well, ramshackle or great city, whatever you'd like to call it, of Shamrock. And so because the area of Shamrock is experiencing a severe drought that has gone on for a couple of years, and desperately the community is looking for water to feed the crops. So Edward the farm boy, along with his two faithful companions, have now set off into the desert to find this fabled city of Gearshift, a fortified settlement supposedly consisting of a community of cyborgs. So they have set off in a tank, yes, a tank, that was lent to them by the community of Shamrock to find Gearshift and to try to persuade them to give them, the community, some water. So, not a ton happened with initially. There was a lot of banter in character discussing certain things. However, they did, before setting out, they met up with a lady called Charlene, who was a former servant to Horace, who was the innkeeper of the local inn. And she basically didn't want to have anything to do with Horace anymore. She was claiming that he was being physically, possibly sexually abusive to her. So she was ready to get out. And she saw our group and she decided to come along with us. So, we decided, hey, as long as she can look after herself, she can come along. So she's coming along with us, along with our tank driver, who is Murdoch. Well, Murdoch's an interesting character. He seems to be a bit of what you might call the town drunk. I think he was purposely given this duty as a sort of maybe a suicide mission, or they just want to get rid of Murdoch. And so Murdoch is a bit of a drunk, and he's driving our tanks. So we shall see how that goes. But after collecting Charlene and Murdoch and setting off in the tank, there was much in-character banter. Later, we cut back to our second group. This group consists of Ebony, a large, a giant bestial human black bear, who, well, she hasn't said so, I don't think, in character, but there's suspicions that she may have been a former bandit who raided Shamrock in the past. We have Billy Buck, who is also a former bandit and also suspected of formerly raiding Shamrock. He is a mutant who looks very vampiric almost. He has this white sort of pale skin and this red hair. Rather attractive, he is, actually. Then we have our final character, my character, Lou, who is basically, he is the advisor to the mayor and his mouthpiece, because the mayor is not very good at talking, it seems. So Lou is accompanying them to make sure they get the job done, and that job is to go with a group of turtle men who are making their way back to their settlement after completing a trade mission with Shamrock, and also to solve the mystery of a dead turtle man found outside of Shamrock, mysteriously killed, theoretically by some high-tech weaponry, perhaps. There were some interesting burn marks on the body. So they set off into the woods with the turtle men in their wagons, and very early on they spent the night. And the next morning, Lou decided that he served up breakfast to the party, and the group heard some strange noises coming from outside the camp, which Ebony, who has keen ears as a bear, thinks that she heard some cows, perhaps, or some sort of beast that sounded like cows. And, well, Ebony is perpetually hungry, so I suspect that she decided that she was going to head out and investigate these sounds. She set out with Billy Buck, and they both went out to explore. Lou, of course, didn't really want anything to do with this. He's not much of the exploring type. He's more of a camp follower in general. He doesn't like to involve himself in dirty sort of combat situations. So he stayed behind and made sure to pick up the camp and get ready for the day. So Ebony and Billy Buck headed out, and indeed it was a herd of cattle, mutant cattle, in fact. And however, as far as I'm aware, because in character I wasn't aware of a lot of this, but they got involved in an encounter with a creature that was eating one of the cattle, and it seemed to be a humanoid creature with purple purple bags under its eyes and sort of this white powdered skin. They fought it, Billy Buck and Ebony. Billy Buck was injured. Lou and Donovan, who is Donovan is a NPC who is coming with our group, and he is a hunter from Shamrock who is sent to help guide the party. Lou and him both went over to investigate, but, well, Billy Buck, we found out, has some serious anger management issues. He was beating the corpse to a pulp, so very interesting there. Later on, they moved on. The caravan moved on. There was more in-character talking. A discussion came up about how Ebony and Billy Buck met. It was most disturbing to Lou, as it involved, well, it pretty much confirmed his suspicions that there was sexual relations going on with this giant black bear human and this mutant. So he was most disgusted by this. But it also came up. They very much, everyone was kind of recounting their personal stories. And Donovan, our NPC hunter, he told a very gripping story of his childhood, how he grew up as a clone, in fact, taken in by his father and escaped from the facility they were in as a babe. And he escaped, but he is a clone. He doesn't know a lot more about the origin of himself. But clones in this age are still a slave race to many pure strains, still produced as slave labor for them. So it came around to Lou, and the characters were asking where Lou was from and his backstory, because Lou has a very interesting sort of appearance. He has the appearance of a celebrity. He has a stunning, dazzling look, almost perfect features in every way about him. And they were wondering, how does he look like this? He looks almost too perfect. So he didn't really want to talk about it, but he was kind of forced to gain the trust of the party. And he recounted how he grew up as he was not so much born as manufactured by a machine. He is a bioreplica, and a bioreplica is born out of a machine. They're kind of, if you've seen Battlestar Galactica, they are the Cylon humans, basically. They're the ones who disguise themselves as humans. They're made by machines, but they are perfectly organic. They're meant to look human in every way, but they're created by a machine. And Lou he recounts the story of how, he was born in the body that he was. He looks like he's an adult, but he's only 14. So he recounted the story of how he was brutally tortured throughout his whole life and made to perform all sorts of unspeakable acts. And that was his story. And the group seemed a little stunned by this revelation. But Lou is feeling, well, we'll talk about how Lou's feeling in a bit. So after that, they were also given the choice of going in two directions. The Turtlemen said that there was one way they could go a long way around that would take several days extra, or they could cut through an area that is known to have this large sleeping beast in a cave nearby. It's a more dangerous route, perhaps awaking this strange beast, but the party agreed to go on the shorter route for various different reasons. Some of the party members, like Billy Buck, aren't afraid of any beast. They can take him on. And some members, like Lou, well, just want to get the trip over with as quickly as possible. So that we cut back to our other group, our first group, and more in-character bantering. Peabody decided that it was a good idea to drink large amounts of alcohol that was offered to him. He decided to drink the entire container, so he was put out of action pretty quickly. Peabody is still quite addled in the head, and Edward is very concerned for this robot cyborg's state of mind, and so when they get to Gear Shift, I'm sure that we will be talking with them about getting some replacement parts. After this discussion, Reginald seems to hear some voices. He was hearing some voices talking with his father about he's able to somehow telepathically speak with his father over long distances. And this concerned the rest of the party, but there was much confusion about that. But the next thing that happened was a group of mysterious riders were coming across the desert towards the tank, and that's where we left off. So that is my recap, and I will be doing, after this, I will be doing a couple of character soliloquies that are basically my character's thoughts on the things that have happened so far in these adventures, the feelings that they have about this. So I will see you all later. Thanks for watching.